Recently I've seen a lot of discussion about the inevitable Yakuza Kiwami 3. With RGG doing a summit on September 20th, we'll probably get a new game reveal and a lot of people think it'll be Kiwami 3. Sadly, Yokoyama confirmed a while back that the next game won't be Kiwami 3, as they want to focus on a new experience first. If I can find the clip of that, I'll play it now. Despite that, today I want to talk about what I would like to see from Kiwami 3, from what I want to see added, taken out, and just other talking points. So without further ado, let's get into it. To start things off with a basic guaranteed thing that will be in the game, I really just want to see some of these characters in the Dragon Engine. It was really cool seeing Mine in Like a Dragon Ishin and Richardson in Infinite Wealth, but I'd love to see the Ryukyu family guys in the Dragon Engine. They'd most likely just reuse the Kashiwagi model from Kiwami 2, but honestly I wouldn't even mind. Especially since he only has like 2 scenes in the entire game. Infinite Wealth looks amazing, especially in the pre-rendered cutscenes, and I'd love to see Yakuza 3 in these graphics. I'm really glad they seem to be sticking to the Dragon Engine, and not Unreal Engine like in Ishin. Yakuza 3's final boss is the origin of dynamic intros, and I'd really love to see some more in the remake. Kiwami only had one dynamic intro added for the Nishiki fight, and it served the game really well, but I wish there was some more. Kiwami 2 added a lot of dynamic intros. Some of them were pretty mid, but others were really cool. For Kiwami 3, I think they could do intros for Rikiya, Hamashiro, Hasebe, Richardson, Kanda, Majima, Lau Long, and Joji Kazuma. So basically just all the major boss fights. In terms of the combat, I'd really love to see a return of the Dragon style. The last time we got a real playable Dragon style was Yakuza Kiwami, which is a shame because I think the Dragon style is the most fun style to use in any of the games. Kiwami's Dragon style feels like they finally perfected it, and then they just got rid of it in the next game. The bounding throws and Komaki parry are really satisfying to use in Yakuza 3, and I think it'd be a shame to not be able to use those in the remake. Though if I'm being real here, they'd probably just reuse Yakuza style from Gaiden. If they go that route, I'd hope they add some of the Dragon style abilities from the older games. Regardless of if they do Dragon style or Yakuza style, I think they'd 100% just reuse the upgrade system from Gaiden. Just instead of money and Arcane points, they'd use XP or SP, like they jump from Yakuza 0 to Kiwami. I think Okinawa is one of the best looking places we've seen in the Yakuza series, even on the PS3 graphics. But one thing I'd like to see is a bigger Ryukyu map. The map of Ryukyu in Yakuza 3 is pretty small, which makes sense for a PS3 game with a short dev cycle, but now we're used to maps like Ijincho and Honolulu. Massive sprawling maps with a lot of content. So going from that in the Dragon Engine to the small Yakuza 3 Ryukyu map would be a bit jarring, and maybe show some of the flaws that we wouldn't have realised. I think the map could easily be doubled or tripled in size, especially since most of the space on the map isn't even playable. There are a lot of arbitrary barriers put up in Ryukyu, like here and here. It'd be great if we could go to these areas in Kiwami 3, perhaps even get some mini-games like a batting centre, or whatever side content they add, which we'll touch on later. Though with a bigger map, there would also have to be some story stuff in these locations, to not make them feel pointless. I think to fix that, they could just move some of the smaller story moments into those new parts of the map, such as when you have to chase after Ayako, or when Haruka gets caught up in that fake credit card scam. I think with doing that, it'd also make those moments feel a little more distinct, rather than them all just blurring together, as they mostly take place in that upper half of the map. I also think it'd be cool if they expand down Kiryu's little neighbourhood, maybe some sub-stories where you get to know his neighbours a bit more, and get to see inside their houses. I know that they show up occasionally throughout the game to comment on ongoing events, but I'd love some actual dedicated sub-stories for them. In terms of side content, it's pretty tough to think of what they could do. I'd love to see a return of the cabaret management game from Zero and Kiwami 2, but those two are part of one ongoing story with Yuki and Club Sunshine. I don't really see how they could tie it into that, unless they just do a completely separate storyline. I'm not sure if they'd add any sort of business management game like in Zero or Like a Dragon, but it'd be a pretty cool way to get to know what the local businesses are. They could also just make something completely new and original. Just please don't bring back Clan Creator. I know Yakuza 3 already has the Hitman missions as its side content. I think they could still have that, and a new set of side content. I mean, Yakuza 0 had 2, and Kiwami 2 had 2 as well. It can definitely work. Getting a bit conspiracy theory-ish with this one, I don't think this will ever happen. We all know RGG like to use acting likenesses for their characters. Ever since Yakuza 4, we've had actual in-game models based on the faces of the actors that played them. With the Prime Video Yakuza show coming out in October, we have an official live-action version of Kiryu, with a brand new face and voice. It makes me wonder if they'd recast Kiryu in Kiwami 3 with this new actor's face and voice, instead of Takeo Kuroda's performance. It wouldn't be the first time they'd replace a character with an actor likeness. They did so with like 3 or 4 characters in Kiwami 2, which completely changed how they look and sound. If this were to ever happen, I think it'd be a Sega decision, or a brand synergy or something like that, to bring in more fans from the show. Now, like I said, I don't think this would ever happen. Kuroda's performance as Kiryu is too iconic, and it'd ruin the continuity of how he looks and sounds if you're playing the series for the first time. I just think it's an interesting think piece. Now, onto the honourable mentions. These are things I wouldn't have enough to talk about, but want to at least bring up. I really hope the character profiles are the same. They used it in the Ishin remake, and I think it's the most useful version of the character profiles. I wonder if they'd redo the lines and recast the characters from the original, or just reuse the voice lines. They redid the voice lines and recast for the other Kiwami games. Some would argue for the worst. Revelations were one of the funniest parts of Yakuza 3. I really hope they keep them and add even more. It also gives us a reason to get Dragon Engine next. I think the bits of the story with the orphanage kids should remain the exact same. I've seen people complain that they feel pointless, but they're far from pointless honestly. Having dedicated story moments with the kids help us to know them better, and actually feel the connection between them and Kiryu. If we knew nothing about them, how would we care about the post-Yakuza 5 stuff with Kiryu's story? I'm not sure if Extreme Heat Mode should be in the game or not. I think it's a really cool and fun feature, but it can sometimes ruin boss fights, like in Kiwami 2. The other 2 Kiwami games have a green filter over them to simulate the mid-2000s feel throughout the game. But if we look at Yakuza 3's camera show, it already kinda has this blue filter over it. I think a good way to replicate this would be to just use the one from Judgment. I think it'd fit quite well. The game would likely have an English dub. It'd be the first time we get to hear some of these characters in English. We'll probably get Yongye back, but with the amount of controversy his inclusion made with Gaiden and Infinite Wealth, I wonder if they'd do another recast or bring back Daryl again. Mine is one of my favourite final bosses in Yakuza, and I think what makes it so memorable is his moveset. I'm pretty sure some of it was reused from another Sega game, but I wonder if they'll replace it like they did with Nishiki and Ryuji's. Though with it being in that boss rush gauntlet in Gaiden, I'm not sure if they would. Kiwami 2 had a small extra story where you play as Majima that ties into Zero. Maybe in Kiwami 3 we could get a story where we play as Rikia, or a story about Kashiwagi after the Millennium Tower incident, leading up to him opening Survive Barring like a dragon. Was that too many honourable mentions? Oh well. That's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about with Kiwami 3. The game could either be announced in just 1 year or 5, we'll just have to wait and see. What do you guys think should or shouldn't be in Kiwami 3? Comment below, I'd love to read them. Anyway, that's all from me, I'll see you guys in the next video.